Hey there, King Loki here, the editor of Death Wish Poetry Magazine. Today, I have something very special. I have a book from one of our writers. This was published, let's see, 2 years ago, back in 2023. It's by Linehan. The Porch is the title. This is a book of poetry. And, well, as far as books of poetry written by men in the modern age, I think that it's an incredibly powerful voice. This is a book about growing up. It's a book about, well, stepping into manhood. This was written at a period when Mike was living with a bunch of roommates and was kind of reflecting on where he was in life. And, well, the point where he left and became his own man. And this is an incredibly existential and beautifully well-written book of poetry. I hear a lot about, men are moving to the right, men don't respect women, men are, I don't know, more prone to violence or ignorance, but this is one of those books that really makes me stop and go, people just have the wrong, role models. So, warning, there will be some edits in this video because I have marked off a few pieces I'd like to take a closer look at. But, that being said, I am doing this unscripted because I really enjoyed this book, and this review is a long time coming. We've published, at this point, I believe 2 pieces from Mike. Mike is very talented. He has a piece in the spring edition called The Body, in which he, talks about how his Catholic upbringing is at least partially responsible for his love of the macabre, his love of horror, and also his kindness, which he exhibits throughout not just his writing, but his life, his empathy. We also published a poem called The Billionaire and the Wendigo, where our dumbfuck president is confronted by the Native American spirit of cannibalism and reckless greed. If I got that wrong, that's fine. Go flame me in the comments. That's what they're there for. Mike is really cool, though. He does slam poetry, and his free-flowing kind of, T.S. Eliot-esque style of free verse is a really great way to get across the things he's trying to share. The first poem, Counting the Names, he writes, "If you cut open my chest, peer into the cavity of it, you can find names carved into my rib bones. My hope, my growth can be calculated by these souvenirs. My body, a kissing bridge, an underpass, an old tree, marked by those who cared so hard and gave me this love to hold with me forever." Poetry is a language of lyricism and also romanticization. And also, I don't want to say hyperbole, but it is a language of beauty. And it's also a language of resonant particulars. This is what a teacher who was very close to me taught me. That you need to not just write things that are important and matter. You need to write things that resonate, that stay with you. Right here, Mike uses the metaphor of the stuff you'd see at a park, His rib cage as, a kissing bridge, an underpass, an old tree with names carved in it. Every one of us carries the remnants of the relationships and experiences that shaped us, right? This other piece that I love, Midnight Snacks, which is one about, his group of roommates that was really formative to his growth. It's 9:30 on a Sunday night when you get a text from your roommates. "Can you get us some cupcakes?" Naturally, you live to serve and please, so you reply affirmatively. The trouble is, every single bakery and grocery store is closed between here and home, so you improvise. You stop at a lonely gas station, a beacon on a black stretch of road, and gather an offering of hostess cupcakes and cosmic brownies. As soon as you return and lay your findings out on the coffee table, your roommates erupt into laughter and thanks, grateful for meager treats. Of course, you still feel guilty for your less than stellar triumph, so you stop by a real bakery a few days later and select an assortment of genuine cupcakes. This is not necessary, and nor expected in any way. But you still feel like a jar of fireflies when these sisters in all but blood express their gratitude, say that you are too precious for this world. You smile, warmed inside by this love of sibling souls, satisfied that you could provide something other than awkward remarks and silence, happy to reside in this safe harbor of a home, willing to come bearing gifts unto the front porch light of midnight. You know, of course, there's the title drop. I love the title, by the way, Porch Light, inviting you to come and just hang. Mike explained to me that this was very much an appeal to home and what home means. There's another piece called An Ode to Roommates. I know the odds that things will fall apart within the next year. I know that we will probably leave this place like autumn leaves, drifting and carried away from each other and what we once called home. I will commit any number of transgressions. I will neglect to clean the dishes or empty the trash. I will leave my possessions everywhere like an Easter egg hunt. I will steal the leftovers or the last beer that you were saving for our particularly shitty day. I will borrow books and many other things without asking. It goes on, all the things that roommates do. I know that things may fall apart within the next year, but right now it's Friday morning, by some pleasant happenstance. We are all in the same place for breakfast, consuming pancakes and mimosas. We are venting our frustrations and laughing over such little things that bring us joy. Happiness isn't always extravagant. Doesn't always demand a cataclysmic blast of euphoria. Sometimes, happiness is just 3 people sharing food and stories, secure for a time in the solace that we are making into a home. The word safe tattooed beneath our tongues. And in this moment, I am happy. I am happy to be here with you. Obviously, I had roommates at one point. And while it was great, for the most part, we had to throw one out, But, you don't remember that stuff. As you move on, you move out of your apartment, your first apartment with your roommates, you get married or move in with a partner or even go back home, whatever your situation might be. You remember the good times with those roommates, And it's that peace and serenity that Mike brings across. Of course, there's also these more personal pieces, such as, and I'm not reading every poem in this book. I'm reading a couple. This is a nice, thick, relatively thick book of poetry. Thicker than my book, Dream of the Ash. Let's see. Yeah, my book isn't as thick as Mike's. But I'm only reading a couple. So, if these appeal to you, do buy this book. It's not all being spoiled in this video review. This is Ode to My Beard, one which I really like because I always have a beard too, just like Mike. Fuck you, you greedy bastard, thief of good beer and hoarder of food debris. Staple of this bargain bin lumberjack aesthetic. Strange map of migratory hair from my desolate moon scalp to my dimpled cheeks and chin. Unkempt morning's rat's nest. Tickler of ears and mouth corners. I've seen those gray hairs betraying my age. A chaos barely tamed. A tumbleweed clumsy and dry like kindling. You are a record of my sadness, a scar tissue reminder of bridges I have burned, an aerial shot of graves I have dug, a whisper in the dark of what will run me down eventually and sink their teeth into me. I won't read more, because this is a really good poem, and I want you to read it in his book. Let's see, what else do I have marked off? Poem called Manic Pixie Dream Girl. For those of you younger than, I don't know, 25 maybe, we had a phenomenon where, every girl was Zooey Deschanel. If you've seen Yes Man, That movie's like 15 years old, but you know, some magic, wide-eyed, crazy girl whose entire role is to save you from yourself and spruce up your boring life, right? I'm not even going to read this piece. It's great. Oh, fuck it. I'll read a little of it. Manic pixie dream girl has come into your life, and you don't know it yet, but she is epiphany incarnate. She is your unlocked potential. You hear that? That is your life song coming on. You are the face melting guitar solo, and she is just the bass, keeping the beat. Manic Pixie Dream Girl introduces you to EDM. You thought you hated the soulless dance music, but she reveals it in a whole new way, as seen with her irises, over yours. Manic Pixie Dream Girl is breaking down your walls. With a sledgehammer and a smile, she is forcing you out of yourself and exposing you to new things like swing dancing and understanding women as empowered people who don't need no man. Manic Pixie Dream Girl has bipolar disorder, but that's alright, because without it, she'd be a lot less interesting, and you wouldn't feel like such a good person. She does have a name, but it's way too ordinary. And she doesn't, and her name doesn't really matter anyway, because this isn't about her. It's about you. You and your ordinary life, and your ordinary boring job, and your ordinary sheltered loneliness. She's gonna save you. She's gonna make you extraordinary. I won't read more, again, because this is a great piece. It serves to highlight why the Manic Pixie Dream Girl fantasy that a lot of men used to and probably still have, why it's problematic, Because relationships are built on mutual striving, mutual admiration, And, just looking for a girl who will turn your life around, what about her? It's not even that it's not healthy. It's that it's not realistic. And holding every girl to the Manic Pixie Dream Girl yardstick, it's not a good foundation for, well, not just relationships, but meeting girls in general. Next, I have a piece I want to highlight. I don't usually like poetry about poetry. I do not write it. It's like all those songs about rock and roll. You're doing it. Why are the lyrics about I want to rock and roll all night, right? But I thought this was a very interesting piece. This is simply called Poetry Is. Poetry is the rhyme, the verse, the meter, or perhaps rather, the lack thereof. Poetry is the perfect song in the speaker, the sunshine smile of that special someone, the night drive and open windows, the harmony untold in the soul. Poetry is the hole in the drywall, the bloody knuckles without a target, the gritted teeth and seething, the carnivore roar of rage unintelligible. I'll leave it there. I don't want to read any of these pieces in their entirety, because I'm just trying to highlight why I like them, what makes them great. Case in point, The Wolf and the Woman. I love werewolves. So, rather than say anything profound, I'll just read a bit of this. There is an English myth on how to cure a werewolf. They say you can call it by name, and those spoken syllables will unwind the stitches of the curse. You can hand them their clothes, as the fur recedes, as their paws elongate into extremities. A man springing forth from the hide of a beast. The man need only be reminded of his humanity, and he will return to himself. The werewolf is a misunderstood monster, longing only for compassion. Growing up, I was a boy, like other boys. Shy, but emboldened by rudimentary flirtations, teasing girls and poking fingers into their love handles, and running, giggling away from their squawking. Of course, I was a child, unaware of the lesson absorbed into my genes that aggression and possession are more important than consent. Growing older, rejected by unrequited advances, I became bitter and snarling at this injustice. After all, I was a nice guy. Why shouldn't these sheep line up before my teeth? Did I not deserve this flesh after integrating myself into the flock? have I not worked hard for this offering of bodies? I have stood aside and beside other men who smile when they catch the scent of a gullible girl, howl into the night over inconvenience, a predator that sees a female as plaything or prey. We are the top of the food chain, and God, we would never hit a woman. But why would we need to when we can turn up the charm, flash a smile, and a hint of humanity before luring them into the dark to find only our glowing eyes and hunger? And certainly it is no fault of ours. Who do you think we are anyway? What I'm trying to say is that I am guilty like so many others. Abuse and assault are not the only violence against women. Privilege and toxicity are perfectly effective fangs. I know that I have stood under the moon, under that moon, with someone else's blood in my mouth, and now I can hear you calling my name, calling me back home. Do you know that you're inviting me? Do you know what you're inviting through your doorway? Is this naming enough to baptize me back into a better self? When the full moon slides back into the midnight sky, will I remain a man and nothing more? Excellent piece. I think a lot of men do kind of realize that, like, you know, whether or not you're taking advantage of someone, there's a lot of privilege that comes from approaching a woman. There's a lot of difficult dynamics to navigate. And I like Mike's piece. That's it. That's all I got. I love his poem. I love his book. There's more. But I really think that Porch Light demands to be read. And it's in full, as I did. There's a link below. There's a link here. And buy it. Seriously. This is his second book. So, I'll also post a link to his other books. But Porch Light is a powerful, beautiful, strikingly modern book of poetry that is the sort that really benefits from its author's unique voice. And I'm very proud that Mike is one of our writers here at Deathwish, whom we have published. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you follow him and check out what he's about, because I like Mike. He's also on an episode of Monster Fangs. Do check that out. And Adrian shot an episode with him where we talked about 3 really cool Irish horror movies. And as you can see, Mike is very personable. He also has a podcast called Mike's Millennial Falcon, where him and his other friends talk about, Star Wars and nerd stuff like that. So if that's your jam, do check that out. Any excuse to hang with Mike is a good one. So check it. Write poems. Make art. Love your demons. Ave Satanas.